You know, I've been very forward-leaning on schools. I don't think they ever should have been closed down. I've been urging them to reopen again. Many of you agree, many of you disagree. It's one of those sorts of issues. Let's catch up again with the New South Wales Education Minister, Sarah Mitchell, because she's made the momentous decision to get all kids back in the classroom 5 days a week starting Monday. Are you relieved and excited about this decision, Minister?
Yeah, look, I am, Chris. I think it's important that we have students back at school. And, you know, when I spoke to you last week, I'd indicated we'd started that managed return to school. It was going well. We had good attendance, extra cleaning, extra hygiene in place. And, you know, as a government, we've made the decision that it's time for kids to be back, and that'll start next Monday, the 25th of May. And I think a lot of parents are very relieved that it's now time for the children to be back 5 days a week.
Yeah, that's great news, and certainly many parents will be relieved. You'll have others that are reticent. Do you have any idea of what sort of attendance you'll get, and what sort of a message are you putting out there for parents if they're still tentative, they're still worried, and they're saying they want to keep their kids home?
Yeah, look, I mean, our message to parents is that the medical advice is that schools are safe. As far as I'm concerned, next week we go back to a normal school week. Attendance is required, absences will be marked. You know, certainly if there are any individual circumstances with any students who might have pre-existing or underlying medical conditions, or there's health or medical advice that they need to consider. I mean, we do that anyway, and we make sure our students are looked after. But the overall message to parents would be our schools are safe, we've got extra hygiene measures in place, and, you know, we want students to be attending come Monday.
But of course the medical advice has always been that schools are safe, so why have we put everyone through this in the first place?
Well, look, schools in New South Wales have always been open for anybody who wanted to attend, and we've never had prescriptive rules about, you know, which students needed to be there. It was always open for any student who wanted to be there, and no one was ever turned away. What we found towards the end of term one last year, when the cases were going up a lot in New South Wales, many parents were starting to keep their children at home, and we had that issue of, well, how do we continue education? That's why we made the decision to have students learn remotely where possible. But look, you know, I'm happy we're now in a position that the kids are going back, and I think that we've got community support and sentiment to do that now, that maybe we didn't have, you know, 6 or 8 weeks ago when people were still very afraid about this pandemic.
Yeah, there's a bit to organise, of course. You're not going to do excursions, you're not going to do assemblies, you're going to try and keep parents sort of separated or away at school drop-off. All that sort of stuff is sensible, lots of hand sanitiser and the like. But you've got the teachers' union saying that they weren't consulted enough, or they don't know enough detail about these arrangements. What's your response to that?
Oh, look, I've been talking to our stakeholders throughout the whole pandemic, the Teachers Federation, our principals organisations. You know, the Premier and I had made it clear last week that if all went well, we hope to have all students back by the end of May. Now, next week is the end of May, so I don't think it really came as a surprise to many that we made the determination that next week would be when children were back. You know, I've spoken to members of the Teachers Federation today. We had full briefings from the department going out to all our principals with some of the operational details, and we'll keep talking. You know, these are unusual times, but we are communicating as best we can, and that will keep happening. And
what about vulnerable teachers? What arrangements have been made for them?
Yeah, so we'll follow the health guidelines, Chris, in relation to that, coming from the AHPPC at a national level. So any teachers over a certain age, those who are immunosuppressed or have medical conditions, again, there's opportunities for them to work remotely, have the appropriate leave, but also we've got extra casual teachers that we can bring into the workforce that we've already been working towards, so that we can have that continuity for our kids. So it's something that we're already covering.
Well, it's great you're doing it. It's a big issue around the country, of course. Victoria has been slower on this, although they're starting to accelerate it. No doubt they'll be very keen to see what unfolds here. Is there much cooperation between the state education ministers on this? Are you sharing any learnings along the way?
Yeah, look, we're speaking quite regularly. We haven't had a meeting of everybody for a little while now. I think each state's been focusing on their own operational matters within their own jurisdictions. And, you know, that's how the education systems work. We're all state-based. I think we are due to catch up again soon. But, look, I'm certainly getting feedback from other colleagues about how it's going, what others are doing, and trying to share any, you know, things that we learn or anything that's of value where we can.
I think I just used the word learnings, which means I'm listening to too many bureaucrats, I think. Now, just the final thing on this is we just talked earlier about the pressures on public transport, of course, trying to keep that congestion out of the public transport system. How much of a problem is this going to be for kids getting to school?
So, I mean, a lot of our school children come on dedicated bus services that are just for school kids, and we see that, particularly in rural and regional areas, but also in some of our city areas as well. We're asking people to, apply common sense to this with parents. If you can drop your kids to school or walk, if they can ride their bike. Obviously the Transport Minister has made comments yesterday and I think again today about school children having preference on those services. But we just need the community to work with us as part of this. I think common sense should apply. And the messaging certainly to parents is think about the best way to get your children to school in line with the measures that we know we've got in place.
Well, Sarah Mitchell, it's good news. Thanks for joining us and good luck with it all next week.
Thanks, Chris.